In unison, we paused, puzzled by the lurking, unspoken fear.
The Whispering House. There was an old house at the end of Willow Lane. It had been abandoned for years, its windows shattered and the front door hanging by a single rusted hinge. The townspeople would avoid walking past it, whispering that the house was cursed, haunted by the spirits of those who had lived there long ago. One autumn evening, a group of friends dared each other to spend the night in the house. Among them was Lucas, the bravest of them all, or at least he liked to think so. He always laughed when the others would talk about the house's dark past. "Let's go, it's just an old building, nothing to be scared of," Lucas said, grinning as he led the way toward the decaying front door. As they entered, a musty smell filled the air and the floorboards creaked under their feet. The house was freezing cold despite the warmth outside. They made their way into the living room where old furniture sat, covered in dust and cobwebs. "I'll get the candles," said Sarah, one of the other friends, as she dug through her bag for matches. The flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across the walls, making the room seem alive. Minutes passed and an uneasy silence fell over them. Then, from the shadows in the corner, a low whisper echoed. "Get out." They all froze. At first they thought it was one of them messing around, but then they saw it. The shadow, shaped like a figure, began to move toward them slowly, dragging something heavy across the floor. "Did you hear that?" whispered Emma, clutching Lucas's arm. Lucas rolled his eyes. "It's probably just the wind." But as he spoke, the whisper grew louder, now clearly audible. "Leave before it's too late." Suddenly, the door slammed shut with a deafening bang, trapping them inside. "What the?" Lucas shouted, rushing toward the door, but it wouldn't budge. The whispering grew louder, surrounding them from every direction as if the walls themselves were alive, breathing. A cold gust of wind blew through the room, extinguishing their candles in an instant. The only light now came from the moon, casting a pale glow through the broken windows. Then they saw it. In the far corner of the room, a tall figure appeared, its face obscured by a dark hood. It raised its hand, pointing directly at Lucas. "Your soul is mine," it hissed, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. The others screamed and tried to run, but the house seemed to grow bigger, twisting and turning, trapping them in a maze of dark hallways. Every time they turned a corner, the figure was closer, its eyes glowing red in the darkness. Panic set in. They didn't know where to go or how to escape. All they could hear were the whispers, louder now, urging them to give in. "Help us." It wasn't the figure that spoke, it was something else, something from the walls. In a final act of desperation, Lucas grabbed a rusted knife from a nearby table and slashed at the air, shouting for the house to release them. For a moment, there was silence. Then, as if the house had taken a deep breath, everything went still. The door creaked open. They ran without looking back. When they finally made it outside, the house stood still behind them, the door wide open as though inviting them back. But when they looked inside, there was no trace of the shadow, no whispering voices. Only the faintest echo of a whispering wind. "Come back when you're ready." Hope that gave you a bit of a chill. What do you think? Create scary story 30 min long. A 30-minute long story would be pretty detailed, so I'll craft a scary narrative for you that's more like a long, short story. I'll make sure it has plenty of twists, turns, and eerie moments. Ready? Here it goes. The Echoes of Greystone Manor. Part 1, The Invitation. It was a cold, rainy autumn evening when Emily received the invitation. A plain, cream-colored envelope with no return address, only a handwritten note inside. "You are invited to spend the night at Greystone Manor. Midnight, come alone." Emily had never heard of Greystone Manor, but something about the name intrigued her. Her curiosity got the best of her. The letter didn't seem dangerous. The invitation was simple, yet it carried a chilling weight to it. Maybe it was just a prank, a joke from one of her friends. But when Emily Googled it, the search results came up with nothing. No records, no news stories, just an eerie silence. Still, the invitation beckoned. Her friends, while hesitant, encouraged her to go. "Come on, Em, it'll be an adventure," her best friend Rachel said. But there was something about Rachel's voice, something uneasy that left Emily with a strange feeling in her stomach. Part 2, The Drive to the Manor. As midnight approached, Emily found herself driving through winding country roads. The rain hit her windshield in heavy sheets, making it difficult to see. The dark sky swallowed every ounce of light from her headlights. She passed fields, forests, and what seemed to be abandoned houses, nothing that looked like a grand manor. Suddenly, a large gate appeared in the distance, rusted and overgrown with ivy. The metal archway read Greystone Manor in faded gold letters. Emily pulled up to the gate, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. A strange sense of foreboding hung in the air, but she pushed it down. This was supposed to be fun, right? The gate creaked open, seemingly of its own accord. She parked her car and stepped out, the wet ground squelching beneath her boots. As she walked toward the massive stone house, the wind seemed to pick up, rustling the trees. The manor loomed ahead, towering with dark, narrow windows like eyes staring down at her. The house looked ancient, a dark silhouette against the stormy sky. The front door opened as she approached, though no one was in sight. Emily hesitated, but her curiosity won out. She stepped inside. Part 3: The Host. The interior of Greystone Manor was even more unsettling. Old portraits lined the walls, their eyes following her every move. The floorboards groaned with every step she took. The air smelled of dust and decay, and the only sound was the howling wind outside. "Welcome, Emily." She froze. A tall figure emerged from the shadows. He was thin, dressed in an old-fashioned suit, and his face was pale, almost ghostly. His hair was white, even though he couldn't have been older than 40. He smiled politely, though there was something unnatural about the way his lips stretched across his face. "I am Mr. Harrington, your host for the evening. I trust you received your invitation." His voice was calm but carried an unsettling edge. Yes," Emily stammered, "but who are you? How do you know my name?" "All in good time, my dear," Mr. Harrington said, gesturing for her to follow him down a long corridor. "Come, the night is young and we have much to discuss." Reluctantly, Emily followed. The hallway was dimly lit, the only light coming from ornate, flickering candles placed at regular intervals along the walls. The shadows danced wildly, making her feel as though she were being watched by unseen eyes. Part 4: The House's Secret. Mr. Harrington led her into a large dining room. The long, oak table was set for one, with a single candle at the center. "Please sit," he said, pulling out the chair for her. As she sat, the tension in the room grew heavier, like a storm cloud ready to burst. "I trust you've heard the rumors about Greystone Manor," Mr. Harrington began, his voice growing softer, almost like a whisper. "About how it's haunted, how no one dares to stay for more than a few hours." Emily nodded, though she hadn't heard much, only rumors from people she'd met over the years, people who were too scared to come near the place. He leaned in closer. "The stories are true. The house has been cursed for centuries, and it feeds on fear. It thrives on the unease of those who enter. But there's one thing no one knows, one thing that keeps the house alive." Emily's pulse quickened. "What are you talking about?" "The manor has a heart," he said, his eyes darkening, "and tonight you will be its heart." Before Emily could protest, she felt the room shift. The walls seemed to stretch, the door behind her closing with a loud slam. The windows, once clear, were now covered in a dark mist, and the candlelight flickered wildly as if in terror. Part 5: The Awakening. The temperature in the room dropped suddenly. Emily's breath came out in visible puffs, and the once distant whispers began to grow louder, more insistent. "Get out, get out, get out." The voices weren't from Mr. Harrington, they seemed to be coming from the walls themselves. Then, the ground beneath her began to tremble. The ornate chandelier above her began to sway, its crystals tinkling like soft, mournful laughter. "The heart is awakening," Mr. Harrington whispered, as if in awe. "It needs a new vessel." Suddenly, the walls cracked open, revealing a dark, pulsating mass behind them. It was like a heart, but made of shadows, veins, and liquid darkness. It was the source of the house's curse. Emily tried to move, but her body was frozen, as though an invisible force was holding her in place. "You see, Emily," Mr. Harrington continued, his voice colder now, "the house can only survive as long as the heart beats, and it needs a new heart every generation. This is why no one ever leaves, not truly." A scream escaped her lips as the heart began to stretch toward her, its tendrils reaching out like monstrous hands. She tried to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. Her mind raced as the cold, dark mass enveloped her, her breath coming in short gasps. "Goodbye, Emily," Mr. Harrington said, his eyes turning black, a sinister grin curling on his lips. Part 6: The Endless Cycle. The world went dark. When Emily woke, she was lying on the cold, hard floor of the manor, her body aching as though she had been asleep for centuries. She sat up, confused, and looked around. Everything seemed the same. The front door creaked open. "Welcome, Emily," Mr. Harrington's voice echoed from the shadows. Her heart skipped a beat. "Come, the night is young and we have much to discuss." The end, or is it?